Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priests, and counsel from the ancients. Amos chapter 8 verse 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Yahweh. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord Yahweh, and shall not find it. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. In the news, from Fox Business.
Oil prices climbing this morning. Brent and West Texas Intermediate both up about half of a dollar per barrel. $1.19, $1.20 for Brent, $1.19 for West Texas Intermediate. This is the national average for a gallon of regular unleaded, hitting an all-time high this morning of $4.86 a gallon. Diesel at another new record high of $5.64 a gallon today. Joining me now, the chairman and CEO of United Refining Company, Gristedes and D'Agostino Foods, also the Red Apple Group chief, John Catsimatidis. John, will this only get worse for the American people?
It will get worse, which is very, very sad. It doesn't have to happen. As I said before last week, I said it last week, a recession does not have to happen. What the obsession that President Biden has with not turning on the spigots in North America, in Canada, Alaska, and let America, North America, we have 100 years worth of oil. Let them open up the spigots, and the price of crude oil will come back down to 55, 60, maybe 65, half. Nobody can understand, all the people I talk to, nobody can understand why this obsession with North America. He wants to fly to Saudi Arabia and beg the Saudi Arabians to give us another 500,000 barrels at $120 a barrel. Does that make any sense at all? It makes no sense. And what's going to happen, he wants to force the, and I disagree with our own economists, that our own friends, that they raise the interest rates by the Fed, because what's going to happen? Instead of bringing down the price of oil and controlling recession, increase the price of interest rates, and guess what? It'll wipe out the real estate industry. It'll wipe out everything else in America. Somebody is on a path to try to destruct America, and somebody has to say, guys, enough is enough. I hope we have enough common sense Democratic senators to say enough is enough. Why are we destroying America? And you know what the cost has been to the American people? Because of the rising gas prices, the cost of the rising food prices, it's going to go even higher with $120 oil. It's going to go even higher. I am begging.
John, especially with...
I'll finish my sentence. I'm begging the White House. I am begging President Biden. Enough is enough. I'm begging the Democratic senators. Enough is enough. Turn on the spigots in North America. Don't go and beg Iran for crude oil for $120, make them richer. Don't beg Saudi Arabia for crude oil. Don't beg Venezuela for crude oil. We have it. And nobody can understand it.
I agree with you. Nobody can understand it. Not even nobody in America can understand it. People who are suffering and whose standard of living is collapsed because of just the cost of fuel particularly diesel. John, before we go, talk about, particularly as a manager of multiple businesses, grocery stores, just how insidious inflation is to all businesses in terms of being able to manage it, and just what it's like in the grocery stores that you operate, and what you anticipate, particularly with diesel at every day at new all-time highs.
70% of all transportation to grocery stores in the whole country is made by truck, and they use diesel fuel. And also our factories that make the food, that process the food, is diesel fuel. The price of diesel fuel went double, and it's going to go even higher. So what does that mean? The food price is going to go even higher unless we grab control. And forget about, it's not the problem of the food companies. It all goes back to the rising prices of oil, crude oil, and what's happening in America today. And we're transferring our wealth in America to foreign countries. That's what we're doing.
And John, it started the first day that Joe Biden took office, and we all talked about it, that by crushing our energy sector, you hand our power and our prosperity to nations that hate us. And that's exactly what has gone on, and made working Americans poor in the process. Final word.
It's just mind-boggling, mind-boggling. If foreign nations elected Joe Biden, they couldn't have done a better job.
John Catsimatidis, please come back. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
In other news from the AP, no, you're not imagining it. Package sizes are shrinking. It's the inflation you're not supposed to see. From toilet paper to yogurt and coffee to corn chips, manufacturers are quietly shrinking package sizes, without lowering prices. It's dubbed shrinkflation, and it's accelerating worldwide. In the US, a small box of Kleenex now has 60 tissues. A few months ago, it had 65. Chobani Flips yogurts have shrunk from 5.3 ounces to 4.5 ounces. In the UK, Nestle slimmed down its Nescafe Azera Americano coffee tins from 100 grams to 90 grams. In India, a bar of Vim dish soap has shrunk from 155 grams to 135 grams. In other news from the RT, one in 6 Germans skipping meals poll. Another 30% fear having to endure occasional hunger as the cost of food increases, the survey found. Nearly 1 in 6 Germans have been forced to skip meals regularly in order to make ends meet, according to a poll conducted earlier this week by the Institution for New Social Answers and published on Friday by the newspaper Bild. Another 30% say they fear such a situation if the increase in food prices continue. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, the hardest hit among poll respondents were low-income households, those with monthly incomes of less than 1,000 euros, which is equivalent to 1,052 US dollars, about 32% of which have been regularly forced to skip meals for financial reasons. A significantly larger portion of poll respondents, 42%, said they had been forced to cook more sparingly due to financial hardship, either leaving out certain ingredients from meals or foregoing dessert. Almost as many, 41% reportedly, depending on the special offers and discounts from supermarkets in order to get as much value for their money as possible. In other news, from the CNN, gas prices $5 nationwide, according to the June index. For the first time ever, a gallon of regular gas now costs $5 on average nationwide, according to the AAA Saturday reading. The national average stood at $4.07 when the current run of price increases began April 15th. The current price reading from OPIS represents 23% increase in less than 2 months. In other news, from the CNN as well, China blasts U.S., quote, bully, end quote, says it will fight to the end for Taiwan. Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe on Sunday accused the United States of being a bully and hijacking countries around the region during a combative speech in which he said his country would fight to the very end to stop Taiwanese independence. Taiwan is first and foremost China's Taiwan, Wei told the Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's premier defense conference, adding that China would not hesitate to crush any attempt by the self-governed island to seduce. This concludes the headlines of the various articles. Shalom, all praises, blessings, glories and honors be unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Recha. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who have taught me his truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom I so-called Negros, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seedling of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. Now, reading some of the headlines, what scriptures should have had came to our minds? Well, the first one that came to my mind through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is 2nd Ezra in respect to famine. Chapter 6, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear and sown. The word sown means to scatter. But very soon, all the sown places that had been scattered with food supplies, goods and services, such as your Dollar Generals, your Key Foods, your Walmarts, your grocery stores, your supermarkets, all these places are going to appear unsown, as if they would have had never been scattered or stored with food supplies, water supplies, goods. The full storehouses, even your storehouses, shall suddenly be found empty. And the trumpet is being blown right now. And as it is written, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? And the only people that have been and are taking heed to the sound of the trumpet, that is of the Lord's trumpet, which are his words that are being professed through the mouth of his prophets, unto there the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, on unto men of like mind, are the elect of the nation of Israel. But as for 2/3, they disregard the sound of the warning. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. But 2/3, their mindset is that the evils shall not overtake nor prevent them. Amos chapter 9, verse 10. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword. And who's the sword? the wicked. Psalm chapter 17, verse 13 tells us this. And who is the wicked? Esau, Edom. Malachi chapter 1, verse 4 tells us this. And what was Esau, Edom's blessing? And is his blessing the sword, which is an instrument of cruelty, which comes in the form of his modern day technology, his gun, okay, and ultimately those intercontinental ballistic missiles. It would say the evil, which means the bad time, of what? Of Jacob's trouble, shall not overtake nor prevent us. Why? Because they are in a very proud and haughty state of mind. That's why the Lord is going to cause these cities to be troubled, because of the pride of the people. And that is why the cities are going to be troubled with famine, death, disorder, confusion, chaos. Okay? Famine. And all these things are coming. So, again, reading some of these headlines. In the U.S., a small box of Kleenex now has 60 tissues. A few months ago, it had 65. This is an example of shrinkflation, which is the shrinking of food and the inflation in their cost. You're paying more or the same, but really more due to inflation for less. Okay, that's an example of this man's economy going down the drain. What scripture should come to mind? One in particular that comes to my mind is this: Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Why? Because their silver and their gold are going to become worthless. Therefore, they're going to cast it in the streets. Okay? Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. That's why the Lord said here in the book of Sirach, chapter 7. Actually, it's not 7. Chapter, is it 5? Yes, 5 verse 7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord Tawadi Yahweh Shai. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, and put not off from day to day, for suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance. Right, in their security many will perish, because they trust in their gold, they trust in their uncertain riches. So therefore they're going to perish in it, because it's a stumbling block of their iniquity. Set not thine heart upon goods and justly gotten, for they shall not profit thee in the day of calamity, right? So people's gold and silver are not going to be able to profit them, nor will it in the days of calamity, in the days of the Lord's judgment, which we are in those days. And we clearly see that the Lord is speeding things up for his elect's sake, so that his name can be magnified. So this is back in Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 19. It says, they shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels. Why? Because they're going to be seeking for something more precious, which is what? The words of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. That's why they're going to be wandering from sea to sea, from the north even onto the east, because they're going to be seeking out the prophets, the men of the Lord, because these false prophets, these false priests, the Lord is going to perish from them, because they won't be able to give Jake the answer. And the Lord said to the blind, lead the blind, both shall fall into a ditch. So Jake, they got a whole lot of stuff to look forward to as concerning the Lord's indignation. Now they fill their bowels, because it is a stumbling block of their iniquity. So big judgment and thing is coming to the world and to the thirds, man. Okay? And people are beginning to experience the pangs of hunger. People are also beginning to really suffer from the effects of inflation, which will soon turn to hyperinflation. People are not really eating as much as they did before, and they're rationing things. So a lot of things are happening, man. Gas is about 5. China's, flexing their muscle, So a lot of things have been happening and are happening, man. as concerning prophecy. So I'll conclude the lesson here. Lord's willing, it was edifying and informative to the elect. Lord's willing, until the next, I say shalom to the elect.